Good morning. If you only read the headlines in the local papers, you'd be inclined to think that some massive conspiracy has been developed now, whereby evil Americans are going to come up to beautiful Whistler Mountain and turn it into Sin City. I'm going to try and get at some of the basic facts, actually, on the development of Whistler Mountain. It's high time it was developed for the benefit of the general public, much more fully than it is now. But are the Americans taking the place over? That always intrigues me. What's their role in it? Whistler was established in 1965, and there's been about $90 million in improvements up there. And while I'm no skier, I'm told it's a fantastic place for high-style skiing and for international ski meets. We're going to go into that in some detail this morning. So first piece on the agenda will be Whistler. Secondly, and I'm going to start with it first, a very delicate situation indeed about the reports that an optician in the city, an optician in this area, has managed to molest, allegedly molested, a large number of women, and yet none of the women makes any complaints to the police about it. No charges, no investigation of the situation as of yet in real life fact. And with me for that this morning will be two workers from Rape Relief. We won't go into the details of the molesting.
The method of operation, you mean?
Well, we'll do it, as you said it in the first story, the massage on the upper shoulders and the dropping of the contact lenses, and after that we'll leave it blank.
Okay.
This is a very delicate situation, and I want to deal with it, as we will, fairly soberly. But the rape relief workers will tell you here that they've now had 24 complaints of various forms of molesting taking place under the guise of a, quote, professional, unquote, service involving an optician. Now, I wanted to get someone here from the opticians to defend or to clarify this position for me, because when I read the initial story, I thought, goodness gracious me, there are 450 dispensing opticians in British Columbia, and when this story first broke, almost each and every one of them, when he went home that night, his wife would eye him flintily and say, are you the guy involved in this story in the paper about molesting women clients? And Bonnie, this is Bonnie Ellis of Rape Relief, I've got one real quibble with you. It looks to me as if you gave this story to the newspapers, a hearsay, it is a hearsay story, although it may well be substantiated now and one could believe it. Did you give this story to the newspapers without giving the police a chance to set up the alleged molester and catch him in the act?
No, we gave the story to the province on Wednesday of last week. It came out in Friday's paper, the 20th, and the story was in the hands of the police on Tuesday. Now, in the form of a third-party report.
Did the police at that time suggest to you, or did you suggest to them, that with this body of second-hand evidence, and second-hand evidence can be good enough for an investigation, don't misunderstand me, did they suggest to you or you to them that steps be taken to trap the alleged offender?
No, they didn't suggest that. When we filed the initial third-party report, we had complaints from 6 women. And it is the 6 complaints that went in on that report at that time.
How many complaints do you have now?
24.
24. You haven't actually spoken to the court suspect, have you? Somebody has.
Yes.
Do you want to tell me? You got a phone call?
Yes, he called
from a man
Rape
whom we
Relief.
shall not identify in any way, shape, or form. He called Rape Relief, and what happened?
He wanted to know from us if, in fact, the article in the province was talking about him, if he was the optician that we were concerned with.
And?
I asked him if the article in the province was referring to him.
And what did he say to you then?
He became very angry and suggested that I stop playing games with him. We talked for a period of time, and he had he was prepared to say that some of the article was referring to him, yes.
Perhaps we better leave that where it lies, because that does more or less prove that you may have achieved the object by the second-hand publicity in any case, in that particular case.
In that particular case, yes.
One thing that bothered me about your initial release was women who have been through such an experience often wonder if it is really their fault or aren't sure that anything actually wrong occurred. Now, explain that to me. I mean, surely, if a woman's sitting in somebody's chair in some kind of professional office and an improper advance is made, she'll either say, stop it, clout him, or tramp out of the place. Apart from, I can understand why she might not go to the police, but why would they wonder if anything wrong had actually occurred?
I think the key word that you used was improper advances. We as a society have learned clearly to depend on experts, to take care of our medical health, to sell our home, to clean our carpet. And experts in those areas reinforce that. Therefore, we go to, say, an optician's office to be fitted for contact lenses, and we are not sure exactly what the process of fitting for contact lenses is.
Look, the contact lenses are in your eyes.
Right.
Right.
Right. Now, it is necessary for dispensers of contact lenses to find out a medical history of the patient, which includes what kind of medication you're on, birth control pills, for example, which a person would not generally, I would suggest, think had anything to do with the fitting of contact lenses. It is important while they're being fit to relax. Therefore, part of the method used by this particular optician is a massage of the neck and shoulders in order to help his female patients relax. Where does one define that as being proper or improper?
Yeah, and then just broadly, there was this, many women told you that the specific technique was to drop a contact lens and look for it.
That is one of the techniques.
One of the techniques.
Used, yes.
It's a tough one. But why, Megan, I mustn't say Megan, I've been told I must say Megan, why, Megan, would a woman, other than some vaguely uncomfortable proceedings or procedure, why would she not, if she, in any circumstances, not this case, if she has been assaulted, far less raped, why would she not storm out of there and call the police?
Okay, there's a whole lot of reasons for that. One is Bonnie was expressing earlier is the fact that women are sufficiently intimidated by being unclear about the correct process, that they know that they have felt uncomfortable about what has occurred, but they don't really know whether that's enough to go to the police. A lot of women have stormed out, in fact. Some of the women that have called us did say, you know, that I'm really angry about that and storm out.
But it wasn't enough to warrant a criminal charge.
They didn't see it in terms of criminal charge or not criminal charge. I mean, most women, or most of the women that we deal with, see their assault in terms of, yes, that was criminal, and yes, you shouldn't have done that, but there's no way I want to stand up in public and say that this has happened to me. It's embarrassing for me. It's an attack on. But on
Megan, I thought the whole object of your kind of organization to reinforce women's rights and whatnot was to get them to do that. I mean, what would you want them to do in a case like that?
We want them to make their own decision. We want them to take. We give them the information that they ask, like what the police procedures and the court procedures and what are the laws around that. And we give them counseling if they want
and
sort of
your best advice
reassurance. And what we say is, this is the information, you make the decision.
Yeah, what the best advice you might well give them on some occasion is, okay, just never go back to the creature again, because if you go through the police procedure on a minor charge, you'll have a dreadful time and be exposed to this questioning and re-questioning and defense and all the rest of it, right?
We don't, no, we don't advise them ever not to go to the police. We say, this is the information, you make the decision. The whole point about sexual assaults, rape, is that it is the absolute taking away of the power of the woman. It's saying, I don't really care what you want, I don't see you as a person, you are an object, and I am going to use you. And our role is to help women recover from that as best we can. And that means taking back that power, feeling again like they are capable and responsible. And thus we can't run in and play nice social work and say, here, come, I'll take care of you and you can do this and this and this.
You say these are the facts, make up your own mind.
Yes, and we'll support you in whatever you do.
And I suppose it's just the basic conditioning, apart from the fact that it must be very difficult indeed if you go to the police with a complaint to be subjected to all the kind of intimate, detailed questioning again and again and again, and swearing an oath and signing a complaint. But next I want to ask you a broader question, and I'm speaking to Megan Ellis. No, Megan?
Ellis.
Megan Ellis and Bonnie Agnew of Rape Relief. Mind you, we're being too generous, Bonnie, I suppose, even by saying professional in quotes about opticians. Because as I understand the laws in BC, all you have to do to be an optician is to have enough money to know how to do it. Am I not correct in that?
I suppose, technically speaking, they're not a licensed body.
They're only a voluntary organization.
That's right.
They have no legislatively imposed standards or code of conduct.
Exactly.
Now, do those organizations which do have their own statute, and I'm obviously thinking about the other professional men who deal with individuals, do you have problems there? For instance, is this optician molester suspect a brand new phenomenon for you people in Rape Relief?
Not at all. No, not at all. We have had calls from women who have reported molestations, indecent assaults, rapes from doctors, dentists,
Physiotherapists.
Yeah, physiotherapists.
Yeah.
firemen.
In fact, almost all area. But the area we're concerned about is those who have the apparent protection of a professional technique.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Now, what kind of response do you get from the doctors and the dentists and those other groups which have statute bodies where they are empowered to discipline and or suspend the people?
Where the
Where you've got the third-hand complaint, the second-hand complaint.
where the woman reports directly to the police, it's handled in the same manner
Where they
as
report
any other
directly to
complaint.
you, would you go to a professional organization like the College of Physicians and Surgeons or the College of Dental Surgeons and say, we have these complaints?
No, I haven't done that on my cases. Either they've reported directly to the police, or if they wanted, I've handed a third party to the report to the police and let them have the information and them deal with it. Our role is not crime prevention. That's the police's role. And we're getting into fairly dangerous territory when we start making accusations like that on the basis of the report of a woman who does not want to be identified publicly. And so we don't know.
In other words, you would only use this technique where you get a consistent flow of reports, which has now come up to 24 in this particular case. Is that right?
Well, this technique, it was
And
used in this particular situation because it was, quote, newsworthy. I mean, the fact that when we originally did the news release, there were 6 women, and there's now 24, made it a newsworthy item. Now, in most situations, it's not. It's a doctor. We only know of 1 incident, or maybe 2. And so the media is not interested. And we can't just write to, say, the College of Physicians and Surgeons and say, we know of a doctor. It's not useful information for them. But this is useful information for women generally that we've been releasing because it makes them aware of potential danger by being vulnerable. Like what makes the case with professionals in these sort of situations different is the use of power, whereas most other assailants in sexual assaults use physical violence as their form of power. Men in professional positions use their professional power, the mystique behind the profession, the fact that this is part of the procedure.
This makes it much more dangerous and difficult to deal with.
It makes it more difficult to deal with.
Well, now, are you finding a different attitude from women, since people like yourself have been propagandizing in the best way on what to do when faced with these situations? Are women any better? I mean, as I was saying to Bonnie earlier this morning, you know, if somebody made some particular, laid a hand on me, I'd lay off and clout them from the time I was 10 up. But one can't expect that from women, can one? Especially in these so-called disguised situations.
Our
Is that what you want to teach them?
Is
You're
not
conditioning. You're still conditioning.
conducive to that. We're certainly not advocating that women rush out and clout everyone either. We're not advocates
Why
of
not?
violence
Why not
in that
clout,
sense.
clout the
Simply
guy?
A protection of your own space. The reaction that I've had from women, the 24 women that I've spoken with in response to this complaint, has been, wow, this happened to me 4 years ago with this man. And it's been on my mind for 4 years. I've not told anybody. I'm really excited that now something is being said. So they are feeling through us more powerful, and they are taking back some of that power that Megan was talking about.
Megan, not Megan. Megan, you said a little while ago that you don't want to be social workers, but at the same time, surely one of your functions, you said you don't want to give the counseling and the social work, you just tell the woman.
No, we do the counseling and the social work. No, don't give, I think maybe you heard me correctly. Or
I
maybe
was in reference to criminal charges, you don't say lay it or don't lay it.
Yes.
That's right. But in this counseling, surely you must have now found that there's a better response from people. Are women coming forward more bluntly to deal with these things? Or do you want them just to phone you and say, okay, this terrible thing happened to me, now that I've told you about it and I know you're interested, I feel that much better?
There seems to be two contradicting tendencies. One is that they're coming forward. I mean, our caseload is going up by leaps and bounds every year, although our resources aren't, so it's getting more and more difficult to handle them. But the other tendency is that there's been a lot of publicity around the court, the police and court process. A lot of movies about the American situation and some publicity about the Canadian situation, which is discouraging women. Women are more aware that it's not fun and games.
Okay, I think that you have dealt with this situation quite admirably, in that I'm sure this situation will be approached one way or another by the authorities. It may lead, for instance, to there's a law in front of a bill in front of the House of Victoria, has been for some years, to lay down standards for opticians. And they're obviously, if people are working with your eyes, of all things apart from anything else, there should be a code of conduct, standards and training, and an ethical base for the whole thing. So you may have nagged the politicians into doing something about that. Tell you what we're going to do now, Bonnie and Megan. We're going to take one segment of telephone calls. We're going to take some telephone calls right now for the one segment to the rape relief workers to see if you agree with their attitudes toward this or any other problems in this field. I don't want gruesome details. Are these girls right in their attitude, or are they wrong? Linda just got an off-the-air call saying that I was wrong, saying that opticians are not qualified in the sense of specific formats laid down for them. I am not wrong. Ophthalmologist is the eye specialist. Optometrist is the trained guy who deals with your eyes. He's not a doctor, but he's an optometrist. An optician is a fellow who opens a shop and fits contact lenses after a short course, and no standards have yet been set down. Am I not right?
You are correct.
Bonnie? A couple of calls here. We'll try one now. Go ahead, please.
Hi.
Hi.
The way the ladies are speaking about this subject this morning, except for one thing. I have 2 points to make. They don't tell you that most doctors, and this is very important, they don't tell you that most doctors and police will tell you that quite a few of the rape charges are fantasy. And you must be careful when you start making charges.
Are which?
Are fantasy.
Oh, fantasies.
Yes.
That's a possibility, isn't it?
And that's one that's one statement. Another one is that we really don't need more bureaucracy to handle these kind of things, Jack. You should know that.
Well, they're not bureaucracy, these girls, these women.
The police, same as bank robbers, and all the rest of people have to be charged when they do wrong.
When they're caught.
That's right. We don't need more bureaucracy.
Look, are you a bureaucracy?
No, we're not a bureaucracy.
How many are there of you?
There are 6 full-time staff and about 20 volunteers.
What is your budget?
$125,000 from the provincial government for 5 centres. There's only 5 centres in the province.
Federal money?
Very minimal.
The odd lip project, right?
Yep.
125,000. You've got 6 centres in the province.
5 centres.
5 centres, and you are not a bureaucracy.
We are not.
You also raised your eyebrows, Megan, when I agreed with the caller. Fantasy. I know myself, for the people I meet, that I've got to make a judgment sometime on their mental condition to decide whether or not I can believe them in the first instance. And I know that happens, whether you like it or not, in some cases of alleged assault.
The standpoint that Vancouver Rape Relief takes, and all rape relief centers in the country take it, as far as I know, is that we believe the woman. We are there for the woman to use as a resource.
You believe it at all costs?
Well, not at all costs, because we are not in the field of crime detection and crime prevention. We are there as a support system, an emotional resource and an informational resource for her. So it doesn't matter to us, in a sense, whether she's telling the truth. Now, in my particular experience, in my caseload, and I've been around for 2 years, so I've dealt with probably 60, 70 cases, I don't know how many. There have been no cases that have been reported to me that have been later shown up as fallacious.
Yeah, but
now,
there is a weakness there. You could be taken for a con job on many occasions. I'm not attacking women in this particular case. I'm saying that often you have to make a judgment. When people come to me with situations, I think, good, mad as a hatter.
But where that myth largely comes from is a police statistic which is called the unfounded rate. Now, you get cases that are reported to the police, and those cases where there is not enough evidence to take it further through the court process are classified as unfounded. And that can mean, various things.
That's a bad description. It could be unprovable, not proven,
exactly.
not enough evidence. We believe the woman, but the guy's too smart.
Exactly.
Or it might be the woman we think does fantasize. She has a history of this and that.
Interesting that 24 women are fantasizing.
Well, I'll tell you this, though, and I'm not knocking the 24 women. I'm saying the moment you have a rash of something, you get people who jump on bandwagons. You do. I'm not saying that in this case. Go ahead, please.
Good.
Hello?
Hold on, please. Go ahead, please.
Yes, hello?
Yes.
I'd like to speak to Megan.
Yes.
And also you, Jack. I've been enjoying your program, by the way, and I appreciate you not smoking on the air.
Thank you.
And I would like to state for the general public that I was helped by Rape Relief once, and my case, I tried to take it to court, and my case was not proven. You know, they wouldn't take it into the courtroom because of the fact that I agreed to take a lie detector test, and both his and my lie detector tests turned out the same. But I would like to say that through Rape Relief, I received a lot of support, and I learned how to defend myself in certain ways. For instance, I always carry a whistle.
Just hold it there. Is that part of your service, your advice? Karate, whatnot?
We advise women to learn how to physically defend themselves, and whether that be by the use of whistles or physical self-defense.
Let me ask this woman one question. Did you find the police procedure demeaning to you, and did it eventually upset you very much?
Yes, I would say so, because it felt like when I was taking the lie detector test that the fella was in doubt of me more than he was in doubt of the man.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a good call from your point of view. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
I think on the subject of rape, I think one of our big problems today is our federal government and their lax society, their affluent lax society in punishing people. They don't punish them. A guy can rape and murder a woman, and a year later he's back out in the street doing it again. Why don't these people get properly punished?
Well, that's a good question for Bonnie. Do you feel that, like this man does, that one of the reasons for the apparent rise in these kind of things is that there is no proper deterrent? Is that a tough question for you people?
Well, no, the sentences for rape are very low. I mean, the maximum is life, and the average is 3.5 to 4 years. But no matter how long they are, the point is that there are virtually no resources for sexual offenders once they're inside the prison system. They are further brutalized and further hardened by that system.
What would you do with them?
Well, there are a couple of programs, one in the States and one that's recently started in BC, in fact, which do deal with sexual offenders, which do try and make them understand that A, women are people, that this behavior is not legitimate, and try and work through that process.
Well, I mean, you're
That
not...
it is a resource for changing that
But I can name you
action.
half a dozen cases of famous rapists in British Columbia who had to be locked up and kept in solitary, one for their own protection because of the bad prison system, and two for the protection of the public. And surely that protection of the public must come first.
Well, I can say that I don't particularly like sexual offenders being out on the streets, but I think that it's really important for the prison system to develop resources to change that behavior, not just put them behind for 5 years or 10
I
years and
agree
then
with
let
you.
them out again.
I think you're talking good sense. We don't seem to have yet organized any such prisons or rehabilitational institutes in this part of the society. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Webster, I'm with the girls, bully for them, but you're wrong again. I have 3 members in my family who are all opticians, and every one attended a school of optometry in the East.
Now, it's not the point I made. The point I made is that you do not have to be an optician.
That's quite true. What we're battling this.
Should have been done long ago. The provincial government, NDP, and social credit are both to blame.
Exactly. I'm
Or
glad
each
you're on
to
my
blame.
side. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Webster,
Yes, yes.
why don't these, are you there?
Hold on a second, my dear. Either that or speak up now. Why don't these do what?
Why don't these people that, I just think it's a dreadful thing. Why don't they do like they do in the States?
What's that?
Carry a skunk cap.
No, that's not the problem we're discussing, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a bit of a disagreement with these young ladies in their the action that they've taken
Right,
with regard to the police.
right.
They say that they reported this to the police on Tuesday. They then gave the story to the Vancouver Sun on Wednesday.
The province on Wednesday appeared in Friday's paper and appeared in Saturday's Sun, I think.
Yes, and I suggest that that hasn't given the police any time at all to take any action.
The police didn't ask us for more time.
Yeah, but I would suggest to you, with respect and whatnot, that perhaps when you have what appears to be a flagrant series of molestings, that this is when you should say to the police, what do you want us to do? What are you going to do? Right? And I think that in many a case, although it's not allowed in the States type, the technique of entrapment can be used properly in the public interest regardless. If you know somebody's continually robbing a bank, you bleeding well put a tail on them, don't you?
The police were aware that we had given that information to the newspapers,
Well,
and they at no time suggested to us
That you lay off.
that be held.
Well, in that case,
or they
I don't
perhaps
think we
suggested
should,
it to the reporter.
I don't think
know.
we should blame either you or the police, but I think we should take this as an example of a situation where you've done a lot of good, where the effect may have been achieved, but that in any further, real blatant cases, the police might think, these girls know what they're doing, and they'll ask you to keep quiet until they've had a chance to deal with it in their way. Thank you very much, Bonnie Ellis, and have I got these names wrong again?
Megan Ellis.
Megan Ellis and Bonnie Agnew. You're doing good work. You don't seem to be wasting public money. You seem to be spending it properly. Thank you.
Don't have much of it.
Joyce, thank you. And Al, you will talk briefly over each slide. That's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so. Nancy Raine. How are you this morning, Nancy?
Fine, thank you.
No bad. How are you, Al Raine?
Excellent.
Al, you're here as the Provincial Coordinator for Ski Development
Yes?
in British Columbia.
Yes, work with the Ministry of Environment.
Okay, so you're a civil servant.
Not really, actually, I'm on contract. I have a contract to do it, and hopefully next spring my contract will run out and somebody else will do my job.
Well, I won't argue about that. What I want to know is what's going on at Whistler, because I read the story in the Vancouver Sun, and I was left considerably mystified. I was given the impression, Nancy, that some nude mayor from Denver, Colorado, who smokes pot continuously, is taking over the whole of the Whistler development and going to turn it into a sin, sex, and booze city. Now, if I got that impression, I'm sure every reader of the Sun got the same impression. What's the score? What's happening?
Well, certainly there's a lot of exciting development happening at Whistler.
Is my impression right from the Sun story?
Well, certainly that's the impression I got, and I thought it was totally distorted.
Is it true?
It's not true in the sense that that's what you will see in Aspen, and I'm sure Jess Odom, when he went to Aspen, did not see those things. He could not find them there, but somebody else reported that's what's happening.
It's a jet set place, isn't it?
That's what is reported to be there, and certainly, you know, at Whistler today we could find individuals who do things that would be distasteful to us. And
the object of the exercise this morning is for you to explain to me what's going to happen there. I know there were two companies going for it, one called Fortress, which is half owned by the federal government and the Aspen Ski Corporation.
Right.
The world's biggest developers of ski resorts, is that right?
Of ski lifts and the operators of ski lifts.
And then there's another outfit from Calgary which had local participation called Blackcomb.
Yes.
Now, why there was a fight between these two bodies? Who got the contract?
Fortress won the bid, and the bid was put out by the government saying we would like you to suggest to us what you could do, how you would develop it, and the timing, and where the financing would come from, and assure us that you're capable of developing an exciting destination mountain at Whistler. And the Fortress bid was a stronger bid, and the government chose to award the...
You had me say at the beginning, are the Americans taking over Whistler?
No, certainly I don't think they're taking over. The hardest part of getting a resort going, a winter resort going, is to get the money into the ski lifts, because that's where the capital-intensive upfront money is needed. Certainly the major money, the major development at Whistler will be in the village. It will be the hotels, the facilities that cater to the people who come to ski, the people who come to play golf and swim in the summertime.
Anyway, this, what do we call the company that's going to do the development?
Fortress Mountain.
Fortress is half federal government money in that company.
Yes.
And half Aspen Ski Corporation.
Yes, and now I should point out, Jack, that they had an opportunity to come in totally the Aspen Skiing Corporation. They said to us, we have a company, we are partners with the Federal Business Development Bank, we helped them out of a bankrupt situation in Alberta. We could probably continue with that vehicle if that's desirable to the government of British Columbia. We said, we believe it's a good opportunity at Blackcomb. Why don't you come with your partner, the Federal Business Development Bank?
Okay, they've got the deal. How much money is being put in by the provincial government? And is it being put into their operation or separate things?
Separate things. There is a federal provincial tourist incentive agreement, and we made it very clear that no funds will go into the operation of ski lifts. The funds that will go into the development of Whistler, the federal provincial funds, are addressed at the facilities that will complement hotels, restaurants, the base development, the tourist development. And certainly the ski lift operators, both Garibaldi Lifts and Fortress Mountain, will not receive subsidies or grants to develop ski lifts.
Garibaldi Lifts are the people who are there now?
Yes.
Is that right, Nancy? Where do they run the lifts, Garibaldi?
They have the lifts on Whistler.
They have the lifts on Whistler.
Right. And they'll be expanding Whistler, too.
Will the Fortress ones, where will their lifts go?
Then the mountain right beside Whistler on Blackcomb Mountain.
Blackcomb. Let's see it. Tell me what's on the screen.
Sure.
Tell me what's coming up. What's that?
That's a scene from Whistler showing some of the panoramas that are in the Whistler area.
Next. What comes next? What's that?
That's the upper part of Whistler Mountain, and this is on the Olympic side of Whistler. This is an Olympic ski run. It's a run that comes out to the proposed town center, and you can see the development on this side of the mountain really features a gentle skiing for the intermediate skier.
We're not at Blackcomb Mountain yet.
No. This is Blackcomb Mountain. You can see there are no ski trails cut there now, and over the next 2 years, Fortress will develop ski lifts and trails on this mountain.
They'll do that at their own expense?
Yes.
What's that?
This is the proposed town center site. Looking from Whistler, you can see it was at one time a gravel pit. At one time it was even a garbage dump by the municipality. They're now cleaning up that site, and the town center will be built there.
That's a new town center?
Yes. At Whistler this time, there are predominantly chalets and private homes at Whistler, and there are very few hotel beds. And certainly the key is to develop the tourist side of it, build the beds and offer the facilities.
What's that one?
This is an artist's conception of the proposed town center, and it's proposed to be a pedestrian village.
Looks not unlike Vail or Aspen.
Actually, much more like Vail than Aspen.
Yeah. Okay.
Here you have a main street scene where people would walk up and down the street, the cars would be parked peripherally, and people would walk through the town to the ski lift.
Are these the concepts from Fortress FubDub?
No, these are developed by the Resort Municipality of Whistler. The town center is a project owned entirely by the Resort Municipality of Whistler.
Okay, is that a lot? No.
I think an important aspect of it is that Whistler must work as a four-season resort. The key
What's that?
This is the golf course. It's presently a par 3 9-hole golf course, which will be expanded to the town center as a proper 18-hole golf course. And some of the federal provincial money will be used to expand a quality golf facility. There's Alta Lake, sailing on Alta Lake, and certainly the summer recreation in the area is really an attractive part of attracting private capital.
And that?
That's the roundhouse at Whistler, the top of the mountain, and certainly all the skiers in Vancouver recognize it.
You know something? I've never, ever been up there. Never have.
Shame on you.
Remember you were going to take me up once?
I know.
You didn't take me?
Jack, you'll have to go up there, and it's too bad you didn't go up 3 or 4 years ago, and then you could see how it's changing. Even over this summer, there's a tremendous amount of construction. Hotels that are there now are expanding, and you can just sense the impetus is changing, and people really feel positively about what's happening.
It's not so long ago since hotels were going broke up there, is it?
Right.
Well, it's still a difficult proposition because winter only is difficult.
Okay, let me get the general concept. There's going to be a new town site which is going to largely be developed by the federal provincial funds.
The facilities, but it will be largely developed by the private sector. The municipality are putting out the land parcels to the private sector to build the hotels and the thing. The federal provincial funds are going to go into facilities like skating rink, swimming pool.
The community facilities.
Exactly.
How much of them? How much of them?
There'll be about $4 million into
I know how much of my tax money is going to go into.
A total of $9 million.
And I'm not going to subsidize anything from Fortress, FubDub, or any of the private developers.
Or the hotel builders or the restaurant builders.
As a matter of fact, Jack, the way I like to think of it is that we as taxpayers will own 50% of the lift company that develops Blackcomb, and so as there is a profit, we will be receiving 50% of that.
One of the world's great skiers. Do you really think this is capable of a grandiose development like this and attracting people from all over the world when some winters, I remember one winter you didn't have enough snow.
Well, that's why it's so important to build all the other facilities, so there are a lot of things to do. And I think, Jack, you know, I've believed for a long time that we've got the mountains and the snow in British Columbia, but we just haven't had a place for people to come. And we're so used to going out of the country on our holidays. We go to Hawaii, we go to Colorado.
We go down to Mount Baker.
We go even to Mount Baker. That's just sort of weekend things. And when people go on a holiday, they like to live a little differently from when they're just doing the weekend trips. And we've never had a place where we could say, hey, come to us.
Is there no first-class, world-style ski resort outside of, where, Banff?
Banff is fine, but Whistler's got...
Is Banff first-class, world-style ski resort?
It's not competitive to what the
Okay, we're going to talk about Whistler, and we're going to take phone calls too. Nancy and Al. Building my house in Salt Spring. Phone's on it, Linda?
Yeah, you probably will.
Nobody. You want to talk about Whistler? Hold on, please. You want to talk about Whistler? Hold on, please. Don't go away. You want to talk about Whistler? Where are you speaking from?
30 seconds.
Hold on, old boy. The fact remains, Nancy Raine, and you too, Al Raine, that this kind of thing tends to become an exclusive thing for the rich. Condominiums up there are going to cost an arm and a leg.
If you want to buy one for your personal use, perhaps, but how many people from Vancouver go to Hawaii and stay in a condominium? That's the kind of development that's going to take place at Whistler, where people can come in from somewhere else and have a holiday there. I mean, people live differently on holidays than they do normally. You save up all year and you blow it on your holiday.
Is the old part of Whistler a pretty messy business?
Well, it's a bit scattered, and certainly for somebody who comes from out of town or doesn't have a vehicle, it's difficult to get from one place to the next.
I'm going to go to the phones, and the first call is from a man who must already be snowbound in Mackenzie. How much snow have you got in Mackenzie?
Well, it's 3 or 4 inches we got now here.
Oh, dear.
Yeah,
okay, what's your point?
Well, okay, I live in an area where we pay $9 for skiing just up the mountain, and we get nothing. We don't get a groomed hill or any good taken care of. You know, if we're spending $9, we should be able to get something for it.
Okay, what are you going to do to help this man in Mackenzie, Al Raine, instead of just this Whistler bit?
Well, actually, I've been up to Mackenzie, and I've looked at some of the potential areas near the town for skiing, and we've even discussed with some of the people in the Recreation Commission their possibilities. Unfortunately, ski lifts are expensive to build. You know, talking about millions of dollars when you go to build a big chairlift. And it's difficult for a small town to afford that. But we've talked about some modest facilities and some potential up there.
You mean you're looking at the possibility one day if you ever get enough money to do it from somebody?
Oh,
Or have they got to stand on their own feet?
No, we're really advising them, the local people, to say...
what kind of lift have you got at the moment? A rope tow or something?
There's a double T-bar there, and, you know, the lifts aren't bad.
Yeah,
That's not the big thing.
Anyway, are you in favor of the Whistler development?
Well, this is it. If I go to Whistler, I can't afford a lot. Nobody can right now.
You're going to have cheap, will there be cheap accommodation for the ordinary folk?
Well, certainly there's going to be a full range of
When does it start, by the way?
This will be really in the 1981 winter season.
It will be ready for that?
Yes.
You mean the new lifts will be up, Garibaldi and
Yes.
Fortress Fubdub?
Yep.
Their lifts will be up. And
December
the other,
1980.
December 1980?
Yep.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Don't forget. Thank you for Mackenzie. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I felt the Sun took sort of a distorted point of view in reporting that story. I'm an avid skier. I've been to Aspen, and I wasn't confronted by nude people walking around the streets, or I didn't come away a drug addict. And,
Did you see any Hollywood stars drunk on couches?
say again?
Oh, you mean there's a story, story about...
Neither did Mr. Odom, by the way. He confirmed that with me, that that was reported to him that actually happened one
He
night.
certainly painted a lovely picture of Aspen with famous Hollywood stars zonked out on couches.
That's right. But that was in a story written several years ago that, in fact, somebody witnessed that.
Fair enough. And your other point, sir?
Yes, and one more point I'd like to find out is what they're planning on doing at the road, especially from Squamish to Whistler.
Good question.
Well, there's certainly a highways program that has been continued of upgrading the road, but there are certainly no intentions to make that a 4-lane highway or to Whistler.
No, is that bad or good?
I think it has a good side in that, you know, if you made it a 4-lane highway, there would probably be 30,000 people trying to rush up every weekend, and the Whistler just can't handle that kind of crowd.
Isn't the train usable to Whistler?
Yes.
Isn't the train ideal for commuting to Whistler?
Yes.
And buses and
they're actually changing the train schedule now, and they put in a train station to make it more convenient for skiers.
From Gibson's to the Rains.
Jack, I think that the guests that you have on are giving you a bit of a snow job on some aspects.
Well, you de-snow it. You melt it.
Pardon?
You melt the snow.
Okay, firstly, they're saying that there is not the Canadian expertise to develop this, that the Americans brought in a stronger bid. They're giving 2% of the net back, and that's where the stronger bid is. How many dollars are you getting back? The dollars are going to the U.S. We've already got a dollar problem in this country.
Just a minute. The 50% is owned by the Federal Development Bank.
Yeah, and I thought they were to be used for developing Canadian businesses, not American businesses.
Well,
the other thing that
what is the net that comes back?
Can you give... for you, Jack?
Okay, let me ask Al. What is the contractual deal with Fortress, Fubdub, and the Taxpayer?
Yeah, the provincial policy at this point is and to bring all ski areas into a charge based on percentage of gross revenues from the ski lift operations, and that is a 2% charge at this time. I should point out, Jack, that most of the areas in British Columbia are not operating on that presently. They're operating on far less than 2%, but the intent is to bring them all to a 2% charge.
No, there'll be an ordinary operating company with their own land and all the rest of it, and they'll have to pay 2% of the ski lift revenue.
To the province. Now, we should also point out that they also pay taxes. For example, about 50 cents on each ticket. I think that Whistler today goes to municipal taxes. There's about $1 that goes to federal taxes. So this is not the only charge that they're involved in. They're certainly carrying their share of the tax load like any other corporation.
I don't see there's much of a quibble there, Collar, because after all, we've got all the giant American companies in here, in the forest industry and mining, for instance, and they pay the taxes.
Okay, but in this case, there was a Canadian company that could have gone ahead on this. And the other thing that I want to...
Oh, you're talking about Blackcomb?
Yes.
Yes, well, the bids were assessed by 6 different groups, and all 6 groups unanimously concluded that the Fortress bid was a stronger bid and that we were assured of it happening. And, the ski industry has this bad history of things going wrong.
With the backing and the expertise of the Aspen people, they felt it was a more expertise and better.
We were assured of being successful.
Thank you very much. No time for more than that. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yes, listen, the town site that is going to be taking over, or Whistler as to be, will the private sector or the private person who wants to open a restaurant, a nightclub, or whatever, will they be able to sort of buy the land, lease the land from the town site government, whatever?
Buy the land. That land will be made, is now being made available through a proposal call by the Resort Municipality of Whistler. Documents can be picked up at Whistler or in Vancouver at the offices of Sutcliffe, Griggs and Moody, who are the project managers.
Sutcliffe, Griggs and Moody. And is this land available on a bid basis?
No, there's a fixed price, Jack. It's a quality basis. So the price has been established. People will be able to go in and purchase the land, but the real bidding process will be the type of facility, whether it's an owner-operator, the quality of their facility, and that type of thing.
And any entrepreneur can go there and look at it right now.
The municipality is advertising in the local papers, encouraging the entrepreneurs of Vancouver to get involved.
You could keep talking about the Resort Municipality. Does that include the new town site and the old town site?
Yes, the entire municipality.
And will that be an elected council?
Yes.
The present council. It is an elected council.
Other than myself, and I'm appointed by Mr. Curtis to sit on the Whistler Council on behalf of the province.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, please. Hello.
Yes?
Yes, you.
Yes, I understand that after a lot of funds will be poured into the Whistler area in a couple of years, a lot of the funds will be starting to be directed to Big White area in Kelowna. Is this true?
I'm not aware of that information.
Are there any plans for Big White?
Well, certainly, yes. Big White is expanding and developing. They, I'm sure, will be looking at this new tourist incentive program and seeing how they could slot into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, please. Oh, just a minute. Hold on. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack. This question might sound silly to yourself and to the people that are there with you, your guests, but I would agree with it, providing that the land in which the development has taken place is leased out to these people, but the land is always maintained by the village of Whistler, and that way you would get something that would be endurable, otherwise not.
They're not leasing it, they're selling it.
Selling the land in the town center, and that's just a financial question, Jack. The original concept was to lease it, and after the financial review was done, there just isn't the private sector capital to build on a leasehold basis.
Well, I think that's about all the time I've got for calls this morning. You're just here as a housewife and to dress up the program this morning. Is that right, Nancy?
Thank you, Jack.
Must say you dress it up very well. I'd rather look at you than look at this old fella here. Is your father or your husband? It's your husband.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. That was
Thank
really
you,
good.
Jack.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
And we'll get you up to Whistler one of these days.
One of these days. A kind of clinic, make it.
What's your lead, Jack?
How much is the voiceover?
20 seconds is the voiceover, Jack. Put your mic on.
Okay. Throw it up when after Linda tells me about tomorrow's program, and I'll give you the voiceover. When Linda says tomorrow we're going to do prostitution,
1 minute.
we're going to do a study on the Air Canada corner. Just don't you say prostitution, say the Air Canada corner.
Exactly 1 minute.
Well, the Whistler thing went quite well. The rape relief was interesting to say the least. Linda,
yes.
What are we going to do tomorrow?
Tomorrow we are looking at Air Canada Corner.
Air Canada Corner,
Yes.
she says. That means that we're looking at a study on a bit of a pest problem in downtown Vancouver. The problem of the prostitutes who infest the streets in many different ways. At Air Canada Corner, as the sign says, buy the best bargains here. Air Canada doesn't mean that, but that's what happens. But it's a straight, clinical, legal look at it, and I think we can straighten out your thoughts on many of those problems tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. precisely.